10:20. Leslie says we're going to urgent care.
Well, glad you're on the mend.
I called my doctor first, and he wouldn't let me. He couldn't see me, so
Well,
he said just.
maybe that'll teach you to stay away from that LSD.
Yeah, whatever LSD is.
Hey, Tom,
Mics are live.
Come on, man, that's from our era. That's from the 60s. That was that drug everybody took. Well, not
I
everybody.
heard it, but I never knew what it was because I never tried none of that shit.
He knows what LSD is.
Mics are live. Mics are live.
Hey, anybody
started
that was
calling the
that knew
song,
anything about
but
popular
that's
culture in the
fine.
60s?
Right. Hi, Letty. Think I got kennel cough from being in there. All I do is cough now.
Okay, ready? Very good. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our regular meeting of the Madera County Board of Supervisors. Today is Tuesday, September 21st, 2021, the last day of summer, and we will ask for a roll call for attendance. First,
Supervisor Frazier. Supervisor Gonzalez.
Here.
Supervisor Rogers. Supervisor Wheeler.
Here.
Chairman Poitras.
here.
My mic was on, so in case it didn't get recorded, I am here.
Okay, very good. So are there any additions to the agenda?
There are no additions.
Very good. Council, would you mind reading the closed session items into the record?
Not at all. Thank you, Chairman. Several items for your closed session today. Under Government Code Section 54957.6, you have your conference with your labor negotiators, Director Alba Gomez and Susan Carter. The employee organization is all units. There are 3 existing litigation matters, all under Government Code 54956.9, subsection D1. The names of the cases include Jason Dela Cruz versus Madera County, Keith Trout versus Madera County, and County of Madera versus AmerisourceBergen Drug Corporation. The last item is under 5.4, there's a typo. I think government legal counsel anticipated litigation, significant litigation pursuant to paragraph 2, subdivision D of Government Code Section 54954.9. There's 1 case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on the closed session items? Hearing and seeing none, we shall recess in the closed session.
He's good? Huh? Always. He should be into open session, yes. Or David.
Um,
Can you hear me?
Yes. Well, good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to a regular meeting of the Madera County Board of Supervisors. Today is the last day of summer, Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. I apologize the late start of the meeting. Supervisor Wheeler is joining us remotely, and we had a few issues with WebEx, but the good news is he's here now, and it wouldn't be a meeting without him. So I'd like to
Thank
start
you.
off with a roll call.
Supervisor Frazier,
Here?
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Here.
Supervisor Rogers, Supervisor Wheeler,
Here?
Chairman Poitras.
Yes. Thank you very much. Council, are there any actions reported out of closed session?
There are no reportable actions from closed session, Chairman.
And the good news is we have more fun in closed session right after the regular session.
Good news.
Very good. Thank you. I'd like to ask any of the supervisors, my colleagues, if there are any individuals that they would like to remember. Yes.
Yes, sorry, this is a coach of mine from high school, Mark Loheis. Many of you either played for him or had kids that played for him, but he loved the kids of Madera, did a lot, taught a lot of them. He was a PE teacher, just passed away on Sunday after a month-long battle with COVID. Just a wonderful man. I still remember he was an offensive coach. I was a defensive player, and he'd always get on me because I would be hitting his star running back a little too hard, and just, don't do that. I said, well, Coach, come to the defensive side. We'll be fine. We'll all get along. But he'll be sorely missed. It was always good to see him whenever I'd go to Madera South and still see him there coaching kids. And so just want to remember him and his family in our thoughts and prayers right now.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals? If not, we will now open with our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. We have Dave Hawes from the Well Community Church of Madera that will lead us in the invocation. And I don't want to put her on the spot, but I see our longtime executive director from the Madera Chamber of Commerce, and I would like to ask Debbie Bray to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and you can do it from right where you are. So let's everybody stand, and we'll start with the invocation.
All right. It's so good to be with you this morning. Let's pray together. Father, we love you so much. We are so grateful. I just want to thank you for Madera. I thank you for this place, this community. I thank you for the men and the women here. And I know this week especially is about remembering the past. It's about remembering the men and the women who have made Madera so great. And so we want to pause and just remember them and be thankful for all the leaders throughout the years who've made Madera Madera. And Lord, we look forward to the days to come as you continue to shape Madera into the city, the county you want it to be. And so, Lord, it's in this room full of just a great bunch of leaders, men and women I see before me who work so hard day in, day out to love the people of this county. And so, Jesus, we think of your example. You didn't come to be served, but to serve and to give your life as a ransom for many. And so that's our desire. We want to be the kind of leaders in this county who are not here to be served, but to serve. And for years, people will see Madera be the place that you desire it to be. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Debbie.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to the public comment, and as a reminder, the first 15 minutes of each regular session are set aside for members of the public to address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board, but not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take action on any items presented under public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium and state their name and county of residence for the record. Are there any members of the public who wish to provide public comment under this definition at this time?
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Rusty Landsberger, Madera County Ag Commissioner. I just want to come and bring it to your attention today that the Ag Commissioner's Office, we have received 60,000 N95 masks for wildfire smoke. So our office is distributing those to our ag community in needs. So when the air quality is above 151, employers are required to provide N95 masks. And so we have those on hand, and we're currently working with our Farm Bureau and some of our farm labor contractors that come in and distributing those masks out. They are exclusively for wildfire smoke. So even though it is the end of summer, we praying for rain, but we still have a lot of wildfires burning. And so just wanted to let you know we have those available. If you have any of your constituents that are in need of N95s for wildfire smoke or for the air quality index, we can definitely get those out to you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Seeing and hearing none, let's move on to the consent calendar. Are there any items on the consent calendar one of my colleagues would like to pull for further discussion?
Well, Mr. Chairman, this is Tom Wheeler. I got to admit that I didn't read the agenda this time, so hope you guys might have some questions. I don't. Thank you.
I'd just like to mention, let's remember Supervisor Wheeler in our prayers. He's been under the weather. He is not a guy that misses the agenda. This is extremely rare for him to admit something. Well, to admit it. He would. Okay, let me rephrase that. He reads every word of every agenda and dot and tittle, and so he has been under the weather. Otherwise, he would definitely have participated. So I just like to let you know that.
Well, Tom.
Exactly.
Supervisor Wheeler, I did read the agenda back up, and I can affirm that it's good.
Thank you, lady.
All right. God bless you, my friend. Okay, so if there's no questions from my colleagues, how about the public? Are there any members of the public that have any questions regarding a consent calendar item?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Very good. Thank you. I'd like to just switch items just because I'm looking at the numbers of folks in the audience. I'd like to move 6B to 6A and move 6A to 6B, or just take them out of order if that's okay for everybody. This item would be the first item will recognize Old Timers Week, and we have a proclamation regarding that. And Nick Salinas.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Nick Salinas, District 3 Chief of Staff. I just want to start by thanking the board for bringing this proclamation forward. And Old Timers Week's been going on for a number of years, and with the exception of Chairman Poitras, can anyone tell me how many years we've been celebrating Old Timers Week? 90. 90 years, that's right. Good job, Super. There we go. So there's only one other event that's been going on longer than Old Timers Week. Can anyone name that?
Rob's birthdays.
Mine.
There, I mean, come on.
You just teed it up, man.
It's actually the Boy Scout Civics Day. That's the other long-running tradition here in the county. So as most of you know, this year we decided to forego the Lunch in the Park event, and we put some feelers out there, and we just felt at this time staff wasn't prepared to attend such a large event. But nevertheless, there are a lot of good events still happening in place, and we have Brian Glover first to share a couple of events that the Lunch in the Park Committee is putting on.
Yes, sir. Board, Mr. Chairman, I'm Brian Glover, Deputy Assessor Real Property for the Assessor's Office, speaking on behalf of the Lunch in the Park Committee today. As Nick said, we just didn't feel that this was going to be a good year to do the Lunch in the Park based on a number of circumstances. Well, we would like to continue the tradition of the City versus County costume contest, so we would ask that that is included in the proclamation. And we're also, for departments that are interested, there will also be office decorating judging contest on Thursday.
I still have the trophy from when the county won it in 2019. 2020 went past, so if anyone was looking for the trophy, it's
Well,
in
we'll send them to you.
it's in my office. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you.
I'll hand it back to Nick.
But wait, there's still more. The Madera Young Professionals are going to be putting on the Booths in the Park event, and they're here to share a little bit more about their event as well.
So Erica Prado with Madera Young Professionals. I just wanted to thank you guys for the opportunity to let us organize it. We're excited. We can't wait. We also want to encourage you guys to bring your family and friends out. It should be a lot of fun.
Very good. Well, thank you.
And last but not least, as you know, the Old Timers Day Parade is going to take place this Saturday at 10 a.m. We're looking at a really, really, nice event. We have a 5-man air formation flyover to open up the event. It's going to be some of the older planes, and they're real loud. And Nick Davis said, "Don't look up; you might get some oil in your eyes." So we can look forward to that. And also entries, that came in last minute. My phone's been going off because Debbie just sent out the entry numbers, and we're up to 54 entries.
Oh,
So it should be a really nice event. And in terms of the board, we reserved some emergency vehicles, so we welcome you and your families to set up with us that morning. And what's a parade without a grand marshal? We have our very own Steve Copeland here, who we've selected as a grand marshal, and we also have our king and queen, Mr. and Mrs. Barsotti. And typically, you would think, oh, picking a grand marshal is pretty easy. There's tons of good people, and that's a problem. There's too many really, good Maderans, and you start talking about names like Dave Barry, Don Warnock, Debbie Bray, and it becomes quite challenging to zero in on one. But this year it was just so easy. The moment Steve's name came up and the moment Mr. and Mrs. Barsotti's name came up, it was just a really easy selection. So I also want to thank our sponsors. We've had tons of support from the community. The parade isn't cheap to put on. It's probably north of about $11,000 to $12,000. You start thinking detour plans, barriers. The Madera Downtown Association also gives a check for $2,000 to the service club that puts the parade together. So it really is a joint effort. And most importantly, I want to thank the members of all the organizations, the Downtown Association, Sunrise Rotary, the Employee Lunch in the Park Committee, and the Madera Young Professionals. These are the folks that are taking time out of their days to put on these events for us and our families to go enjoy. So with that, Mr. Chairman, if there's a...
Now, I notice I see some white hair back here, and there's 4 guys back there. Now, who are they?
Sunrise Rotary?
Sunrise Rotary. Oh, yeah. Okay. Good. All right.
They're going to be doing all the heavy lifting the morning of the parade.
Gotcha. Okay. Good. All right. So, well, Nick, I think what would be appropriate is that if we get all the parties gathered up here, I've got some proclamations I'd like to hand out. So if you guys in the back, I don't know if you need any walkers or anything, but, and then the young professionals.
If we can also get Downtown Association members.
Downtown Association,
Mr.
King and Queen, Grand Marshal,
Young
Brian.
professionals.
Can you guys take the brunt of it? I don't know.
Oh, gosh.
So, first of all, what I'll do is I've got 4 proclamations. I'm going to go ahead and hand them out. First of all, for the Madera Young Professionals. So, is that yours? Next, we have the Employee Lunch in the Park Committee. Brian. We have the Madera Sunrise Rotary. Yay. All right. We will see. And the Madera Town Association Old Timers Day Parade. Chris. Yes. All right. Good. All right. All right, we'll move on to item 6A, and this is a proclamation recognizing September 17th to 23rd, 2021 as Constitution Week in Madera County. We have Marie Hirsch Lewis representing the Daughters of the American Revolution.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and that you guys have taken the time to recognize our ruling document for this land. This is our law. And after we leave civics class, that's about the last time we really much hear about it. And so this year is the 66th anniversary of Constitution Week. It was a NSDAR, which stands for National Society Daughters of the American Revolution. Past President General Gertrude S. Caraway was responsible for the annual designation of September 17 through the 23rd as Constitution Week. The DAR made its own resolution for Constitution Week, which was adopted April 21st, 1955. Been a while. The importance of the 17th is the date that the Constitution was signed. Members of the United States Congress received the DIR resolution, and on June 7, 1955, the resolution was discussed in the Senate. The first resolution to observe Constitution Week was made June 14, 1955, by Senator William F. Noland of California. Following the passage of the resolution made by both houses of Congress, President Eisenhower issued his proclamation on August 19, 1955. The first observance of Constitution Week was so successful that on January the 5th, 1956, Senator Noland introduced a Senate joint resolution to have the President designate September 17th to the 23rd annually as Constitution Week. The resolution was adopted on July 23, 1956, and signed into Public Law 915 on August 2, 1956. For his interest, his patriotic aid in accomplishing this and his interest, Senator Noland received an award of commendation from the NSDAR Continental Congress in April of 1956. To tell you just a little bit about the organization that I represent. We were founded on October the 11th, 1890. We had tried to join the SAR, Sons of Resolution, but they only accepted males. So the women went about doing the same thing.
Good for you.
Which one is still around today?
They're both.
Yeah,
They're both.
Are.
That was 11th of October of 1890 was an intense time of revival of patriotism and patriotic feelings. And as a result, we formed an organization that has carried the torch of patriotism ever since. Now, a lot of people think of DAR as being little old ladies with a lot of money. Well, I have to tell you, it's a lot of ladies, young and old, that we call today's DAR. And we are actually a service-based organization. And we have 3 objectives. One is historical preservation, meaning that different groups identify items in the country. And you might think east of the Mississippi because that's where most of the Revolutionary War took place. But actually, it's all over the country, things that need to be preserved. And a chapter may identify a site or an object or an activity that needs support to be preserved. And they may work with like the county here and others to accomplish this. Education. In his injunction, President Washington, in his farewell address to the American people, said, to promote as an object of primary importance, institution for the general diffusion of knowledge, and thus developing an enlightened public opinion. And then patriotism, which is to cherish, maintain, and extend the institutions of American freedom, to foster true patriotism and love of country, and to aid in securing for mankind all the blessings of liberty. And one of these objects was the Constitution Week. And we're very proud. This is the 3rd year that I've been involved in it. I was not able to attend the other board sessions, but we very much appreciate it, and hopefully the public does as well. I did bring some pocket constitutions if anyone is interested. They contain all the language and the amendments and so forth. Now, I'm going to break from something here because I just read this morning. Today is Alzheimer's Recognition Week, or Day. Alzheimer's is a thief. It robs people of themselves. And we watch the caregiver who raised us often become the child and eventually leave us. And so support for Alzheimer's is very important. There was a walk last week, and I know this is separate from what I came to speak about, but it's something very close to my soul as I lost my mother to the ravages of Alzheimer's. And the one thing that makes it easier is knowing that she's free of that burden now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marie. Great presentation. Are there any comments from my colleagues? Yes.
I just want to thank you for your stand as a patriot, and I'm a son of the American Revolution. My great-grandfather, 5 generations ago, Archibald Roane, served with Washington at the Battle of Trenton and across the Delaware. At the age of 17, he was a member of the Pennsylvania militia, then fought all the way to the Battle of Yorktown, stood beside the general when he received the Sword of Cornwallis at that battle. Later became the 2nd governor of Tennessee and served on the Supreme Court in Tennessee. So when I think of the Constitution, not only is it a family document, but it is the document that grants to us something that no other nation on the earth enjoys, and that is the freedom of personal property rights, the thoughts of your mind, the idea of your religious beliefs, the ability to express yourself freely without encumbrance. All of those things guaranteed in our Constitution are the basic rule of law. And there's no other document more important on the earth, with the exception of the Bible itself, than the Constitution of the United States of America. So I am firmly in your court, and thank you so much for coming and sharing this important document with us today.
You're quite welcome. One thing that I did skip about talking about DAR and its service. We serve my chapter is the Sierra Foothills chapter of Daughters of American Revolution. And we serve Eastern Madera County, which is where Supervisor Wheeler is. And we support the veterans. Our ladies have asked that we keep as much support in their local community as possible. So a few of the things that we do work on are supporting the veterans. One thing that we've done recently is to make signs for doors of veterans who are in care facilities so that anyone entering knows that there is a veteran living there. Another thing is when we've had stand downs, our ladies collect over the course of a year new underthings, feminine products, and so forth to be given out at the stand downs. This is in addition to what other organizations do, and it's all free to the public. The second thing that we support is education. Each year, there is a senior project that in the 3 high schools that cooperate through DAR, they lost their funding for preparing the exhibits through the school for to demonstrate their senior project. And so we donate to that. We give it to the school to help students that may have trouble with money. And there's a lot of them up there and everywhere today. Another piece with that is the DAR Good Citizens Award. And every once in a while, I run onto somebody in the community who says, I remember that little pin. I got one of those when I was a senior. Each of the high schools in our local area selects a senior who is the most representative of the being a good citizen. We have a chairman who works with the schools and with the students. And 2-3 years ago now, the gentleman that we had selected as our, I'm sorry, I'm running over.
That's all right.
Okay. He was from Norfolk, and he won at the state. At the local, the district, the state, the regional, and got all the way to national as a representative from our community, and we're most proud of him and the other seniors as well. We raise money each year to present them with a scholarship. Not a large one, but enough to maybe pay for some books. So anyway, I did want to include some of that in my.
Well, thank you. Are there any members of the public that have anything that they'd like to mention? Hearing and seeing none, we do have a proclamation, so I'd ask my colleagues to join me as we present this proclamation to Marie. The time is right around 10:37, so it's time for our GSA report. We'll have a presentation and update on the Madera County Groundwater Sustainability Agencies regarding with rates regarding recharge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Stephanie Agneson, Director of Water and Natural Resources, here for an update on the rates study. I'm joined with Mike Linden, Deputy County Counsel, who is here in person. And then we have some consultants online from Raftellus, Jim Armstrong, Kevin Kostick, and Nancy Fan. And then because we're talking about our recharge and costs, we have David's Engineering consultants, Brian Thorson and John Davids. So I will briefly give you an overview of GSP projects and management actions. We'll talk about the components of the rate study. We'll revisit debt financing and then talk about what we know, what we decided, what we're currently accomplishing, where we're headed, and the costs of recharge. So you'll recall this infographic from an earlier presentation. This shows you how we are currently quantifying and plan on packaging 4 groups of costs: recharge, land repurposing, water supplies, and domestic well mitigation. Those go together in our projects and management rate study for the total cost. So this slide breaks down the individual components of each cost. For domestic well mitigation, that's showing up in yellow on the far left. There are the actual costs of replacing wells as well as administration of the program. For water supplies, we're looking at potentially 10,000 acre feet of water from site's reservoir and off-stream reservoir. That requires purchasing in and paying some of the debt service of this project since it currently exists, as well as operations and maintenance into the future and administration of a contract with sites. For land repurposing, what we've called SALC, or strategic agricultural land conservation, there are the costs for retiring the acres themselves to landowners, as well as potential costs if we choose to pay the never irrigated acres. And then there is the administration of the program. And then lastly, the costs that we're going to walk through today for recharge basins are capital projects of building all of this, and then O&M as well as administration. So I know that typically people think this rate studies are a simple thing, but we wanted to break down. There's a number of different costs that we want to make sure we quantify and refine and use best available information. So we talked last time a little bit about debt financing. So most of our programs, domestic well mitigation, water purchases, and the land repurposing, have relatively steady annual cash needs that could be funded with cash funding, meaning from the rates themselves. But Raftellus is recommending for recharge, because that is more of a capital type of project, to use debt financing. There's significant short-term capital costs, which you'll see shortly. There are long-term benefits, and generally if you have short-term costs and a benefit over a long period of time, you want to take out a loan in order to finance that. That would reduce large upfront payments and lower the annual costs. So we're working with the county municipal advisors and bond counsel to figure out the terms and timing and structuring of the debt. This is a new area for the bond market. There are not other GSAs that we know of looking for financing like this. We'll be conservative in terms of how we estimate what we may need to borrow. So that's kind of the refresher from last month's meeting on debt. Now I'm just going to briefly go through what we know and what we decided and what the costs for recharge look like. So you've seen this hydrograph before. It spans a long historical period, and I know everybody who lives here knows that historically we have seen groundwater levels declining. The red and the blue are data points, and then the green projects what would happen if we did not do anything. So if we did not take actions to reduce water use, if we did not build projects, this is what groundwater decline would look like over time. And looking at that in a different way, in this bar graph for the Madera subbasin, you can see The difference between what groundwater is extracted and then what is naturally recharged is what we're calling the shortage of about 165,900 acre feet per year. That's shown over a lengthy historical period so that we capture wet years and dry years. You can see a similar shortage between groundwater extractions and natural recharge from surface water projects or systems in Chowchilla of 100,600 acre feet. So you'll see those in mainstream media referred to as overdraft. They're properly called shortages. Overdraft includes lateral flows, and these are just what are called vertical water balances that accurately quantify the difference between water pulled out and water that's put back in.
And those shortages are, it says Madera Subbasin, but that's with all GSAs.
That's right. That is all GSAs.
Just wanted to point that out.
Yes, thank you. So what we decided, and this is all of the GSAs working together in the Madera Subbasin and Chowchilla, was that we were going to be aggressive with recharge, and that's shown as the yellow slice on the stacked bar graph. Those are recharge projects. And then we were also going to bring down demand, and that's the green and white striped. And you can see the way that you get to sustainability is this combination of being aggressive with recharge and then decreasing demand. So this is, again, just a hydrograph that shows you what happens when we model what projects and management actions look like. And so you do see some decline, but you also see some stabilizing of groundwater conditions over time. So big picture comments were shifting from the Madera and Chowchilla subbasins to kind of just the Madera County GSAs in the 3 subbasins. What we've done so far, we have a comprehensive recharge study going on with David's Engineering. We successfully secured 2 recharge grants. They were $4.2 million each, one in Madera, one in Chowchilla, and those are in a design phase. We have David's Engineering working on emergency recharge, emergency in terms of what happens if we have a wet winter, what do we need to do to take water off the bypass now? We are in the middle of implementing an allocation, which I know you know about. We've had water market discussions funded by a Bureau of Reclamation grant, and we're towards the end of a simulation. And then we've continued our stakeholder workshops and outreach, often meeting one-on-one with farmers when they want to come in, or in small groups, or Zoom, or in-person workshops, frequently in collaboration with the Farm Bureau so that we can have a hybrid option with people on Zoom or in person if they'd like. And finally, we are engaged in a rate study. So that's the end of those comments. Now we'll talk about where we're going. We're going to complete the current phase of the recharge study, the design work for our grants, the emergency recharge, and work through preliminary design of projects 2 through 5. Project 1 is the one mostly funded by the grant. And we're completing the the rate study that quantifies recharge, land repurposing, domestic well mitigation, and other water supplies and transfers. So then that brings us to what's the cost of recharge. And I just want to ground this a little bit. I know in previous public meetings, we have heard people anxious to do recharge who talk about just renting a pump or buying a pump and sticking it in the bypass, right? That could be a solution, but what we need is a much more comprehensive plan. We need more acres that are involved. It's not just the acres adjacent to the bypass that need to be able to take water. We need permanent infrastructure. All of that involves environmental work and permitting, planning and design work, environmental review. There's water rights issues. We will need to complete a full water rights application for water on the bypass. And then there's this governance issue. There really is a different way of doing things if a public agency does this in an organized fashion, counting the water so that it's metered when it goes onto the land, quantifying that in terms of how that might relate to an allocation. That's a different process than just sticking a pump in it, which works in the short term for a smallish amount of water. So the next slide gives you a sense of what those costs look like. The top table is Madera, the bottom one is Chowchilla. So project one is the one that we have partially funded by a grant, but you do see project costs ranging from $5 million to $30 million a year. So we have some big numbers here with totals of about $190 million between the two subbasins in terms of recharge. So this is the board's original direction to be as aggressive as we could with recharge. There are a lot of opportunities here, but there are also a lot of people competing potentially for that water. So what does your investment get you? Approximately 2.5 million acre feet of recharge over the life of the projects, which I think is modeled as 50 years, over 300,000 linear feet of 27-inch pipe, 350 new turnouts, 71 new pump stations with fish screens, which is a requirement, 15 dedicated recharge basins, a heck of a lot of on-farm recharge, which is the more cost-effective option. And this is part of achieving sustainability. It is not all of it. We can't recharge our way to sustainability. We need to couple it with the portfolio of programs you saw, including land retirement and an allocation, but it is an important part. So next steps for the rate study include scenario analyses by staff and consultant teams, cash needs by subbasin, which is a financial plan, rate modeling, as well as preliminary rates being shared with you, and finalizing the rate study report. Then we do a rate notice authorization and then a public hearing. And I know you're familiar with that process from all of the maintenance districts. So the charges we are considering are for calendar year 2022, and then would be collected, assuming we move ahead collecting on tax bills at the end of 2022 and 2023. So this concludes the presentation. I would be glad to take any questions, and we do have 2 consultant teams on board to help as well.
Very good. Are there any questions from my colleagues? Yes, Supervisor Rogers.
Yes, so when we look at groundwater recharge projects like the large Triangle T infusion a couple of years ago, 2016, I think it was 60,000 acre feet that was infused. And do we have any, were there any studies, or was anybody looking at how that affected regions, how far out that moved? What was the potential for that as far as, like, how did it affect wells in the, I know they shifted from pumping deep wells to shallow wells as a result of that. And I wondered how that affected the other parts of the region and how far out.
So good question. One thing you can see very clearly is that when you do recharge in the upper aquifer and you move away from pumping from the deep aquifer, you see a decrease in the subsidence rate. And as you recall, that was one of the driving factors. And so we have seen sort of the focus of subsidence shift away from that region with the Bureau of Reclamation's mapping.
Excellent.
So I would say that. Brian, do you want to say anything about well levels?
I
Guess
agree.
not.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, he agrees.
Yeah.
I will follow up and see if Brian has anything to add from the monitoring network. Part of what you're asking is I'm not sure we were using all of the wells in the monitoring network during that time when the recharge was happening.
Right. Well, this is relatively new to us, and so that project came early, and that was a great example of what can happen when a private industry puts its mind to preserving the future. I go back to the statement. My mind's fuzzy on his name, but the doctors, there were 4 of them up at the Mammoth RCRC, where he kept mentioning this phrase, and I love the phrase, headwaters to groundwater. And they absolutely intimated that the best storage was get it in the ground, and it's not going to evaporate. It's going to be there and useful, and it's going to serve multiple purposes once it gets in the ground, and that's a fact. So the more recharge, we can't recharge our way out of this, as you said, but the more water we get in the ground, the better off we're going to be, because we're not going to see the destructive nature of subsidence. As an example, my well that I have a deep well, and then I have a domestic well. But the deep well, the large of the two, is now sitting. It was readjusted in 2015 and dug a little deeper down to 540 feet. Well, the pad for that is now sitting about a foot off of the ground. And for those that don't believe in subsidence, that is a perfect picture of what subsidence does. The pad for that well is just sitting a foot up off the ground, and the pipe is up higher. You can see the pipes exposed underneath, and that's exactly what's happening. The ground is going down, and the infrastructure is staying there because it's based on what it's anchored on lower points, so, which is not sinking. So those are staying stable, and but unfortunately, everything in between is compressing, and what it can do is twist those pipes and misform the aqueduct that you've created, and make it useless. So that's a big problem that can occur.
And I think Triangle T is a really excellent example of recharge in Madera County. The key with that project is not just backing off the lower aquifer, but it is that the exchange contractors sold them water. So they were
Right.
bringing in water, put in the aquifer.
They made an investment.
Absolutely.
They made an investment. And I was going to point out that I just got a phone call this week from a major farm production in our region. I'm not going to name them, but I would say they're exercising leadership. Maybe I will later on. I'll ask him if he minds if I mention them. But they're fallowing 300 acres to create a basin. You've talked with him. You know who I'm talking about probably. But they're creating a basin for groundwater recharge, and he called it a wetland. He wants to make it. You know who I'm talking about.
I do know.
I see the light bulb going on. But I think it's a great exercise of leadership to do something like that, and ensuring the future for their own operations and as well as the region. So I think we're seeing good signs.
Stephanie, I have a question in regards to recharge, and specifically, we hear a lot about recharge from the bypass, and the bypass is, of course, in the west part of our county. How does the recharge from the bypass, any kind of recharge, benefit wide area lands on the east side, the other side of, say, the Santa Fe tracks? Is there any benefit? Is there something from a hydrological standpoint that kind of backs up, or is that, I'm not sure that there is a benefit, and I'd like to know if there is from the water experts.
Okay, well, I'll venture a guess, and then if anyone on WebEx would like to join in, that would be fine. I mean, the way DWR has created how the way Sigma is written, we are judged as a GSA and as a subbasin. So the GSA water balance will derive a benefit from water being brought in on the west side, even if you're on the east side. I think what you're saying is, what benefit would there be literally in my well if there's recharge and it's 30 miles away? And I don't know that you would see that directly. That said, there are opportunities for recharge on the east side. And we have worked collaboratively with Madera Irrigation District on our grant proposal, which looks for places where there is capacity in their canals to put in additional turnouts. So I don't know that there's a benefit 30 miles away because we know groundwater moves pretty slowly, but there is a benefit to the GSA the more water we bring in. And if anyone on WebEx would like to augment that, please feel free. We'll pause for a minute.
Yeah, I was just because, there is an elevation difference, and it's something called gravity. And
Yes.
you're at 300 feet, say, on the east side or something like that, or maybe a little bit higher, and you're maybe at 125 to 150 feet above sea level on the west side. So it's yeah, and I'm just looking at it from a practical standpoint, for somebody who's farming on the east side, and they, is it going to benefit their wells at all? And I don't think it is.
It will benefit, though, the subbasin and the GSA water budget, which is the
crux of the matter.
it's where the allocation is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree.
There's actually some projects over there, like Chowchilla Irrigation District put in a 40-acre recharge right on the Ash Slough, or is it Brenda? It's the Brenda Slough, coming real close to the. It's that triangle-shaped piece over there, real close to the Brenda Reservoir, and then Madera Lakes itself actually has recharge that's consequential. It leaks, and it does create a lot of recharge precipitation there that goes down through the alluvium. But Rob is right. The elevation, it means that it moves west. Everything moves east to west anyway, but it does help us with the budget, the water budget.
And if the board clerks could help unmute Brian Thorson, I think he might want to say something.
We've sent a request. He has to unmute himself.
Yeah, so I've now unmuted myself. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. So unfortunately, in the attempt to unmute myself, I'd forgotten the earlier question. So it seems like probably that is not necessary. But I think here we're talking about just the water budget, and one of the cruxes of the Sigma is to balance the water budget so that the inflows and outflows from the groundwater are over a long time period matching. Every year will be different. In a drought year, you'll take more from the groundwater than you put in, and in a wet year, you'll put more into the groundwater than you take out. So over a long time period, we can balance that. There is this issue on the location. I'm a agricultural/civil engineer, and we work with agriculture, so we did the surface water balance with respect to benefits farther east from the recharge in the west. That would be better spoken to by our hydrogeologist, Pete Leffler, who's not here today. But of course, all that kind of depends on levels and where the groundwater is in levels. So as we recharge in the west, that's going to change the relative levels of things. So even if it may help hold more water in the east in some cases, or could, depending on the number of wet years and the amount of recharge, even change the flow, at least temporarily, as things are kind of balancing out. So I think there is some benefit, but
Yep. Thank you for that answer. I think it points out that I think it gives us a false sense of security in regards to, it may look good on paper, but from a practical standpoint, growers on the east side are not going to be benefiting. In fact, I heard Brian say maybe, and he had a lot. So that doesn't say yes, they will. And so I appreciate that. And so I think it just points out to where in the basin we have to be really aggressive in terms of our recharge on the east side. Again, not just relying on, hey, we're in great shape. We've got all this great, recharge in the entire basin. But again, it's kind of false security.
Yeah, I think you'll end up seeing a lot of the economics create the push for Salk more on the east side than the west side, just because of where the recharge is happening. But I do appreciate you advocating for the east side too, in terms of looking to share some facilities with MID and putting some recharge projects over there. Because in the meantime, we still have large groups of residents that are out there that are having to keep their wells at a static level, and as it keeps pumping there, recharges down there, and then water levels are coming up on the west side, but continually going down on the east side, it's going to be tough to rectify that. So having that push to have recharge projects over there where they really need it is going to be very important.
Very good. Thank you.
So I would just add that there is plans for recharge projects on the east also, and depending on water source and the availability of water, why we can certainly modify the plans based on the availability of water. We have to have water to recharge, and that's an important piece of where the recharge is. We also need good soils for recharge. There are definitely good soils on the east, but we're looking, we have to get water from the Madera Canal and work with the Bureau of Reclamation there, and the county's working on that. What kind of water can we get, and if we can get more water in the future, we could do more recharge there. The projects right now are based on the best estimates of where we can find, water available and land to put that recharge in.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from my colleagues?
I have one more question.
Yes.
Just to put this on the radar of the team, I know that we're probably not going to expand the delivery system from Madera Canal because of the politics of that at this point. I don't see that happening even in the far future, unfortunately. But what can we do in terms of locations along water delivery systems that already exist to acquire the right or the ability to pump water off of those during 215 releases and use that avenue to get more water into the system? Are we looking at that, and what is being done there? Thank you.
So very much so. So Brian's team has an effort where we've asked people who are willing to do recharge, where you're willing, what that would look like. So that is all mapped according to where the land is and where the waterways are. So there's obviously some things that are lower hanging fruit than others, but that work has been done. And then on my side, we are working with the Bureau of Reclamation to expand that place of use, which should be a simple thing. But I think we are closer than we have been to that occurring. So that's where the water source would be. That would give us the ability to take flood flows and potentially other sources, other types of water as well.
Is that a matter of simply placing a pumping system in a location where we'll acquire that right and through maybe a landowner who can benefit also from the recharge? And
so that would certainly be one option. There are people who have existing turnouts who are still in the wide area. That's kind of the low-hanging fruit. And then there are places where they would need a pipe or a canal for the water to get there. So that's a little bit more costly. But all of that's on our radar, and David's Engineering's mapped.
Are we looking at the possibility of expanding some of those turnouts for them, enlarging them, where we would utilize our we have the 100,000 acre feet of 215 water we could access. The hardest part is getting that into the system all at once, because it comes all at once.
Yeah, that's absolutely the challenge with flood flows. So we've looked at where additional turnouts could go, not necessarily at expanding existing turnouts, although I think we've had a couple that were in disrepair that would need to be repaired.
Okay. We can look at maybe expanding them if it's going to be a complete rebuild. Expanding them might be an option.
Okay.
Are there any members of the public that have any comments you'd like to bring up at this time? Hearing and seeing none, thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to item 6C. This is a presentation of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central California Community Programs.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was great.
Good morning. Good morning, Board of Supervisors, Chairman Fortress. I'm Deborah Martinez. I'm the Director of Social Services. It's my privilege to bring forward Big Brothers Big Sisters, who's going to provide you some very good information regarding their services. I also do want to highlight that these are great partners that are also involved with our Live Well Madera County, specifically our Growing Healthy Families work group, and they do a tremendous work, and we really appreciate them. So I'm bringing forward the team.
Thank you, Deborah. Good morning, Chairman, Board of Supervisors. Thank you for having us today. So I have my staff member, Amy, here. We'll be transitioning in and out of these slides here. So I'm going to get started. So the mission for Big Brothers Big Sisters. Big Brothers Big Sisters, our main mission is to create and support a one-on-one relationship with our volunteers and kiddos in our program. We hope to create a relationship between the volunteer and the child that will last a lifetime. We would like to create a relationship between not just the child and the volunteer, but also the families, because we are a true believer that it starts in the home. In order for the child to proceed and be successful in their future, we do agree that in the home is where it starts, and so we can build that rapport with the parent and with the volunteer and child. That's what we would plan on doing. And with that, we would see higher aspirations, greater confidence, and better relationships amongst everyone. And regarding our program, we have 4 different programs that we do offer. We have Community Base, which is our adult volunteers who mentor to youth throughout the month. And within the month, we require at least 2 to 4 outings. This is a more flexible decision that volunteers make because it's on their time whenever they would like to see the child throughout the month. Lunch Buddies is another program that we do offer. This is more so for volunteers to see their child throughout their lunchtime at their site, their school site. So typically these volunteers on their lunchtime, they would go see their child there at their school. And then the next program is High School Bigs. These volunteers are high school students who, again, during their period, go and see their littles at their school site. Next one is Bigs with Badges. This is a specialized program geared to volunteers who have a background in law enforcement, and they can also be part of the community-based program or Lunch Buddies program. And this next slide, I'm going to go ahead and transition this to Amy, and she'll go ahead and give you this.
Thank you. Good morning. So the kids we serve are ages 5 to 12. We just made a change and started enrolling kids at the age of 5. They can still continue in the program up until the age of 18 to 21. The kids we serve come from a non-traditionally family household, which means that biological parents are no longer together. Some kids come from foster care. Some kids are low income, have a parent or a loved one that's incarcerated or has been incarcerated. The kids we serve have hardships such as parents have an addiction, they're, have a low self-esteem, and they're just kids that need that extra support that want to succeed, just don't know how. And for the kids to be in the program, it could be referred through social workers or school personnel. So the referral process. So the way the referral process works is we give the referral form to the social workers, and they pretty much make the referral to the agency if they feel the child could benefit from having a mentor. From there, the Matterport specialist team reaches out to the families to see if they would like to seek services from us. And also, we want to thank Joseph DeGeorge for helping us get involved and helping us connect with personnel from the Department of Social Services. We understand that he has a lot of work, so him helping us is really tremendous to our program.
So that brings us to the hardship as of all agencies go through with the pandemic. However, Big Brothers Big Sisters has been able to maintain longevity of matches through a lot of communication, a lot of phone calls. We do ask that volunteers, when I stated previously, to do community outings, transition that to more so phone calls and Zoom calls, where they can do activities through Zoom or do extended phone calls over the phone. Recruitment for volunteers, again, we did that through via Zoom, transitioned from in-person presentations to Zoom presentations, giving families hope. So that kind of brings me to the next slide of building community within our matches and the families that we do have on our wait list currently. So what we did here to build a closer relationship with our families in our program, we have delivered food items and have also not just food items, we also delivered household items, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, Lysol, bleach, things of that nature we delivered to these families with our trust fund. We actually hosted virtual events. These events consisted of Facebook Live videos. I learned how to do things along the way as well, making slime and making coffee, things like that with our kiddos, and having the volunteers involved in that way really helped out with the longevity of the matches and creating that relationship with the kiddos and parents. We also did things like wood decals, vinyl tumbler decorating, things like that were all provided. We also did drive-through events. So we did muffins with moms, we did backpack giveaways, we did trunk or treat. Moving forward, I'm looking forward to our future trunk or treat we're going to be hosting in October. So we're really excited for that. Holiday parties that are going to be coming up, doing those through drive-through events as well. So this next slide is a match story that Amy is going to be providing for you guys, which is a really amazing story. So I'll go ahead and let her share that.
Thank you. So I understand we typically present a match story with a child that's in the foster care system. This year is a little bit different. We want to highlight Mr. Paul Yankee. He is an administrative analysis with the Department of Social Services. He and his little have been matched for 6 years now. They started off in the Lunch Buddies program where Paul would visit Noel at his former school, which was Washington Elementary. From there, they would see each other once a week. They would have lunch. Paul would take him lunch, and Noel would be really excited to have those visits with Paul, just because, he would have someone to talk to and also get the attention of the other kids. That was something Noel really enjoys. After being matched, Noel and his grandmother moved to Fresno due to financial strains. A little bit about Noel. Noel comes from a non-traditionally family household. He does not have any communication with dad. Mom was in and out of the picture until recently. They started creating a relationship. So he's always lived with his grandmother. His grandmother has been the one always supporting him and just helping him, guide him to the best she can. Unfortunately, Noel made some choices that led him to get expelled from his school, and Paul took time off from work to advocate for him at the school and see if there was any type of extra support that he could provide him just so he can remain in school. Unfortunately, he was expelled and was placed on probation for some decisions Noel chose to do. However, that did not impact their friendship. Paul continued by his side and was a listening ear for Noel. Today, Noel is currently enrolled in a tech school that he's trying to pursue welding. And Paul has just demonstrated to be a pillar in making Noel choose the best decisions he can, and also just be the type of support that he doesn't have at home.
Hi, good morning. My name is Mitzi Moore. I'm the program manager of the program. So we are just very grateful and indebted to the partnership that we have with the Department of Social Services. We've been having this partnership for well over 7 years, and we would not be able to do the type of work that we do without their support. We have this unique opportunity to work alongside with social services, and I think ultimately that's the goal that we have as a community, is to work with each other to provide the best possible support for the children and the families. And we only wish we were able to replicate this amazing opportunity in other areas, because it has been very, very beneficial. And one thing I do want to add is that in the foster care system, sometimes the child will be, placed back with the parent or moved to a different household. And what our program is able to provide is have that steady mentor that is following the youth wherever it is that they go. As with the example with Paul, his little now lives in Fresno, and he's still making the effort to spend time with him. He is actually our Big Brother of the Year for 2021. He's representing Madera, Fresno, Tulare, and Kings counties. So again, we're very grateful for this opportunity. If it wasn't for our partnership with DSS, we would not have encountered Paul, maybe, and we would not have been able to be such a great impact in Noel's life. So we're very grateful for the opportunity to speak with you. And again, we cannot say enough good things about the partnership that we have.
This is not about DSS, but I will tell you about Paul. I have to mention that he is a long-term veteran, and he is really a great leader, and Noel's lucky to have him.
Well, thank you so much. That concludes our presentation. Thank you all for your time.
Very good. Thank you so much. And certainly Big Brothers Big Sisters is a over-the-chart, fantastic organization, one that's made such a great difference in providing that mentorship in the lives of kids that need that adult example. Any comments from my colleagues?
Said it very well. Yeah, that's.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much.
supervisors.
For what you do.
Very good. Any comments from the public? I see a lot of heads going like this. Okay, good.
One thing I was going to say is it's really great that you followed up about Noel. He made some poor choices, but you don't abandon people because they make poor choices. They need even more help, and every kid makes mistakes. Every kid. I think of the things I did when I was young and stupid, and did those things, and my mother stood by me no matter what. She loved me no matter what, and that has an impact on you when you have somebody who they're not blessing what you did, they're blessing you because they love you no matter what. And that was a great follow-up. I appreciated that addition thought. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I have to name drop a little bit. Chris Childers over there in the back is also a Big Brother, former Big Brother of the Year as well. And again, someone that started off as in the Lunch Buddies program, and that has been able to work with this little for many, many years. So yes, and exactly, we love our kiddos regardless of whatever choices they make. It's not always going to be perfect, because even as adults, we're not perfect. We have our ups and downs, but that consistency just really demonstrates the type of mentors that we have. So thank you all very much again.
Thank you.
Very good. We'll move on to 6D. This is a discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution to permit establishment of ag preserves of less than 100 acres.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jamie Bax with the Planning Division, and I have Kamara Biawogi here with me as well. Kind of difficult to follow up on that item. That was an awesome item. So anyways, we do have this year's Ag Preserves, the program before you. We do have a resolution for those that are less than 100 acres. There's just 7 of the total that we received that are below that criteria, but they are all on the valley floor and all are crops, so no grazing land in that category. So I'm just going to let Kamara go briefly through each of those 7 applications, and then we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Morning. Yes, like Jimmy was briefly stating, there are 7 contracts under the 100 acres requesting to enter into Williamson Act. The first one here is 1736. This is a proposed contract that comprises of 2 parcels. This totals 87.05 acres. This next one, it totals 19.45 acres. This is 1 parcel for a contract. This is another proposed contract of 60.76 acres, comprises of 2 parcels. This next one here is conjoined 2 parcels totaling 78.34 acres. We have another one here for a contract of only 1 parcel, that is 33.95 acres. And here are 2 individual contracts owned by the same individual. One is 18.25 acres, another one is 19.44 acres. It is recommended that the board accepts applications less than 100 acres in size due to the type of crop and or adjacency to other contracted lands. Available for questions.
Okay, very good. Are there any questions regarding this item? Hearing and seeing none, are there any members of the public who wish to comment on this item?
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Is he tuned in?
He is. He's unmuting.
Okay.
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Very good. And then we have 6E. This is a discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution approving and authorizing the chairman to execute the Golden State Connect Authority Joint Exercise of Powers Agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is somewhat of a follow-up item to a participation in a grant application for broadband connectivity that you executed probably about 60 days ago, also through RCRC and Golden State Connect Authority. This is a JPA that they're putting together related to broadband services. And we would obviously recommend that you approve the resolution.
Very good. Are there any questions, comments from my colleagues? Any comments from the members of the public? If not, I'll accept a motion for action.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you. I don't believe there's any pending legislation. Anything to bring up at this time?
There is not.
Or, gotcha. I'm sure there is, but some of it's not worthy for comment yet. Then we'll move on to supervisor reports. Let's start to my right with Supervisor Frazier.
I have nothing to report.
Supervisor Rogers.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Supervisor Gonzalez.
Just one thing, tomorrow in this chambers, we will be having a rate study for the hearing for the streetlight rates in the Parksdale area. So everyone's welcome to attend, and I believe the people who are affected have been notified. So that's tomorrow in this room at 5:30.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Supervisor Wheeler.
None.
None. And just a couple of items, and they both deal with Highway 99. Last week, as my colleagues know, we had the ribbon cutting for the completion of half of the Avenue 7 to Avenue 17 99 widening project. And tonight, I have a virtual or Zoom town hall regarding Highway 99, and we're going to be talking about next steps to see what we can do about making Avenue 12 to Avenue 7 a lot safer by adding lanes and answering a lot of questions.
Safety lanes.
Safety lanes, absolutely. So,
Too bad they couldn't do that little stretch between Chowchilla and Madera that's left too.
That's the next part.
that's the next
We're a
part.
third of the way done.
Yeah, listen to the town hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, tune in to town hall supervisor.
Sounds good.
There you go. All right, and let's move on to our CAO.
In my past life, I was the president of the California Peace Officers Association for 1 year, and today marks their 100th anniversary as an organization. They actually existed before certain government agencies that now exist do. So congratulations to them. They are in San Diego celebrating that.
Fantastic. Council.
No report, Chairman.
Clerk of the board.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay. I believe that our closed session items may take a while. I would suggest that we take an hour break for lunch, come back at 12:30, and complete closed session. Thank you.
12:30?
Rob?
Okay.
12:30. Yes.
I'm going to excuse myself from it, if that's okay. If there's something real important, you can text me and I'll try to get on.
Take care
Very
of yourself,
good.
Tom.
Get well,
Absolutely.
man. Get well.
Thank you, Supervisor. You take care.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Certainly.
Susan. 12:30.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you back to the board meeting, and we shall recess into closed session. See you all soon. Good afternoon, everybody. Council, do we have anything to report out of closed session?
Chairman, there's no reportable action from your closed session.
Very good. Thank you. And with that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.